Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, A Lady's Villain, by phantom_of_the_fanfic. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin Chapter 1, The Invisible Conversion. Hisashi and Inko looked down at the little bundle as it slept in Inko's arms. What about Izuku? Hisashi whispered. Inko looked up at him. Yeah, Izuku sounds perfect, she sighed. I guess this means I'll be staying at home for a while now, huh? Hisashi smiled and kissed Inko's forehead. You can retire if you want, my love. I know how much Izuku means to you, even more now the 9 months are done. Maybe I will, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go soft. I might decide to do some shoplifting now and again. She laughed tiredly. Hisashi just smiled. His wife and newborn son were both safe right now, and he was going to make sure they were protected from those meddlesome heroes, because Hisashi and Inko were villains, or now just Hisashi. Inko had been the feared villain mental, since she could cause people to go insane with their true desires. Hisashi, however, is a more enigmatic villain, his quirk unknown except to the couple here and a select few under his command, because Hisashi, he is all for one. And I will always be your all my one. Hisashi knew the line was cheesy and he hadn't used it since he and Inko had gotten married, but he felt it was a perfect time for such a line. Yours and our little Izuku's. The door slammed and Izuku kicked his shoes off before storming into his room and dumping his things. His father stood in the kitchen with a white apron washing pots and pans. Something wrong, Izuku? He turned to the green-haired boy as he furiously scowled into the fridge for a snack. Izuku took a steady breath. I was wrong. He closed the fridge after finding only a can of soft drink. Stupid but language, Hisashi said sternly. Izuku put the can down and sighed. Sorry, Dad. Izuku took a moment to compose himself. I was wrong about heroes. You were right about him. I'm not too proud to admit it, but it's just frustrating. I know, my son, I know. The man turned around and leant on the sink. I'm proud that you can admit you were wrong, and I won't choose this moment to gloat. That will be saved for the dinner table once you tell your mother. He grinned as Izuku raised an eyebrow, but I hope now you're more understanding of our career paths. Izuku's father was of course referring to the fact they had both been criminals before Izuku was born. His dad still worked as a villain but for now wouldn't tell Izuku his alias, but his mother had retired to take care of Izuku. So have you rethought your choice of university? Sort of, Izuku admitted. I was thinking, Dad, yes. You've always said intelligence is the deciding factor in a fight with heroes and villains, so. Well, the best way to beat your enemy is to know how they think, Izuku finished, looking shyly at his dad, who had curly black hair and piercing dark green eyes. You know I tell you this every now and again, but son, Hisashi's eyes shone with love, I really am proud of you. Izuku smiled and hugged his father, but if you do follow this course of action, I will not be attending parent-teacher conferences, especially if the rumors are true and he is there. I know that, Dad. Mum said she'll bite the bullet because she knows how difficult you'd find it. At that moment the door opened and closed again and Izuku Midoriya stood in the door of the kitchen to see her husband and son smiling at her. Izuku watched his father stride over to the woman and wrap her in his burly arms, kissing her with the love that Izuku could only assume was equal to the day they got married. He mockingly opened the bin and pretended to be sick. Right here, he gagged. Once his parents separated they looked over to him. I take time your father was right this time. Yeah, and I'm not too proud to admit it. His mother matched her husband's smile. Good, you know that was one of the only things you two ever disagreed on. She giggled. The other is pineapple on pizza. I'm a villain and even I say that's too far, Hisashi exclaimed. Izuku just laughed and walked into his room. I'm going to study and train a bit. I'll finish in time for dinner. His door closed with much less force than before. Izuku sat and waited for his dad to knock on his door. Tonight he was going to go with his father to his workplace. His villain costume was a mockery of the #1 hero, an idea his father had applauded at the dinner table. It would be ironic how the #1 villain would have a subordinate with the likeliness of his enemy. Even better that it was his son, who could truly understand the symbolism of the costume. 3 subtle raps on his door and Izuku opened it to see his father stood in a 3-piece suit and bow tie. Izuku felt a sense of awe, respect, and fear from the costume and then joy as he realized that was his father's motivation behind the costume. The two silently made their way out to the night and Izuku began climbing to the roof. His father merely walked to the nearest alleyway and levitated up. "Now son, your villain name, what do you want it to be?" "I think it should be something that not only juxtaposes him but the whole hero ideals too, and so what is your epiphany?" "What everyone called me when I would tell them I had no quirk, I think my villain name will be Deku." His father patted his back, a very smart choice. His attention turned towards the still air. Kurogiri at his time, a purple vortex opened up and Izuku walked in with his father by his side. They walked into a bar, lit up with amber lights. Booths lined the wall with windows while the bar came from the far wall and stopped a few meters away from the wall with the doorway. The place was completely unoccupied save for the bartender, a man almost entirely made of the same purple and black as the vortex. "You must be Kurogiri." Izuku walked up and sat at the bar. "He's a very observant one, I should think so considering he's my son." Izuku just grinned as a large chocolate milkshake was handed to him. Kurogiri's yellow eyes were the only indication he was smiling. "I should have guessed, the resemblance is uncanny." Kurogiri poured Izuku's father a glass of amber fluid. "Is this why you didn't fight him that night?" "We were having a family game night on Inko's insistence and you know for all my power I can't fight her once she's made up her mind." The men laughed before Hisashi turned to his son. "Do not tell your mother I said that." Hisashi turned to Kurogiri, "But I'm glad I did. We ended up watching cartoons and all falling asleep on the sofa, much nicer than some fight against them." Izuku slurped his drink. "So what's my first training mission?" "You don't need training. As his son I expect you've been training since you can remember." Kurogiri took the empty glass and began cleaning it. Izuku smiled. "So what's Dad's name?" "My villain name is one you know already." "Not very well honestly but you know it." Izuku gasped. "My dad is all for one." His dad laughed and smiled. "Yes, you are correct. Now if you're going to make your appearance hidden you have to wait before announcing your presence to the world." Izuku smiled at his father. "Unless, my suit comes with a color swap ability meaning I can have a hero and villain appearance." Izuku had already finished the idea. "I've got a few doodles if that's good." "That is excellent my boy." Hisashi began taking a drink. His costume fit nicely as he prepped for the robbery. His mom had agreed to bring him along on the small operation. They weren't going to steal much as a sudden jump in wealth would make them very suspicious. There was 9 different people in the main room, 4 tellers and 5 customers, not many witnesses and they didn't want any murders on Izuku's hands just yet. So they waited a moment and walked into the room before Izuku picked up a gun and fired at the ceiling. "Everyone down!" he yelled. People screamed and ducked. His mother quickly disarmed the guards and Izuku just aimed at one. "Don't," was all he said. 2 guards one either side of the door. He hadn't seen them. "Watch them." "Got it." His mother ran off to get to the vaults. Izuku looked around, 10 bodies lying on the floor. "Wait, 10. He tapped the side of his mask and the lenses flickered. They began showing things that were invisible by combing different frequencies of light. "Stop right there girlie." Izuku aimed the gun at the air. "You the only place in the room where no light waves reflect, even ultraviolet can't see you." The silhouette of a teenage girl charged him and he shot the floor ahead of her, causing her to panic and fall over. He knocked the girl out and her body started reappearing except, Perv, walking around naked. Izuku dragged her from view and found a pile of clothes and a female hostage. "Since I'm a gentleman I won't be touching an unconscious woman, so you're going to put her clothes in her." "Say what you will about Izuku, he's not a pervert." Once the girl was dressed he lifted her over his shoulder and kept her face in his back so she wasn't recognized. Inko came running out with bags of bills and Izuku ran with her. "Why do you have a girl slumped over your shoulder?" "New recruit." He tried. "I'm not a perv okay. She almost escaped using her invisibility quirk and I figured she'd make a good addition to the group. As long as you understand you're a villain not some." "Yes mum." Izuku, his mother warned sternly inside, "I'll ask your father to organize living arrangements. You two can't stay home since she'd bring police but you also need to keep watch to make sure she can't get police." Izuku watched the girl leave the room. Now they weren't under time constraints. She looked quite attractive, blonde hair running to her mid-back, hazel green eyes, a slim figure only about half a foot shorter than Izuku. Why were you in the bank? To steal the money of the rich there without them seeing me. Why were you there? Train as a villain. By the way, you're my prisoner. Any escape will be punished either harshly or comically. As if on cue she bolted for the door to trip and faceplant from a cling film trap Izuku had set. Upon witnessing this he burst out laughing. Oh my god, I can't believe that worked. He helped the girl to her feet. What's your name? Mine is Izuku, Toru Hagakure, she mumbled without looking at him. Nice name. You're welcome to anything JN here, just don't try to leave. Villains might be evil but we still have a code of conduct. Toru followed him as he walked back to the sofa. If you respect me I'll respect you, that way we can work together effectively. I'll keep note of that, Midoriya-san. Just call me Izuku, there's no point using honorifics. If we're out on the field call me Deku. He sat down on the sofa and smiled warmly. Take a seat. Toru sat down next to him and relaxed a little bit. Call me Toru then. I'll come up with a name when the media are able to spot me. Izuku slumped on the sofa and turned the TV on. Toru slowly seemed to debate something. You can't go home yet. I don't have a home, she uttered depressingly. Parents kicked me out when I kept robbing the convenience store down the road. That was 5 months ago. I was robbing the bank for money to buy the food. So you're wondering how to become a guest instead of a prisoner. Yeah, but a more permanent guest. I'm sure your situation will get better with time. Izuku just sat, letting her get more comfortable. Now I think firstly you better get comfortable because you're clearly going to be here for a long time, and since you're my prisoner you're going to do as I say until I don't consider you a prisoner. So what? You want me to be a maid? No, I'm a villain, not a creep. You listen and do as you're told and I won't make you do anything you're uncomfortable with. Training me to communicate. No, training you to listen and making sure you like me. So what's my first order? A little eager, are we? Explain your quirk first so I know what I'm working with. I'm able to warp wavelengths of radiation around my body to hide me from all seniors, ultraviolet to infrared. Ever tried expanding that field? Not going to ask why I'm a thief. Don't particularly care for that, Izuku shrugged, but I'm going to guess. Something to do with heroes making collateral damage. You lost a loved one and now hate heroes. Yeah, lost my grandfather in a brawl that also cost my family our house. At first I stole just to grab some extra food we couldn't afford, but then I began to get addicted to the rush. Killed yet? No? Good, neither of us are going to kill for a while. Izuku nodded. No BLD on our hands just yet. We need a while. He watched as Toru let out a massive breath. Worried about that? A little, honestly. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable with it. Fair, but I'm sure we'll both change over time. Izuku put his hands behind his head. For now we're just going to do robberies, hold-ups, and maybe a few joyrides, if you're up for it. Toru grinned. Oh, and while we work on your quirk abilities you'll be gathering information for me. We'll make your quirk able to expand to your clothes if you train it enough. The blonde smiled. And don't call me anything stupid. You got it, boss. She giggled. As the days turned into weeks, turned into a month, Izuku brought Toru into his plan for infiltrating UA, knowing that she'd jump at the chance for revenge against the heroes. The pair grew closer and closer. Izuku knew that his quirk hadn't been in effect since they first met, so the fact she enjoyed working with him was of her own volition, and he wouldn't admit it, but it made him happy to know that. It was midsummer when he woke up and stumbled shirtless into the kitchen ready to make himself breakfast, when, holy SHT dude, you're more ripped than I thought. Morning to you, to Toru. I thought you said you were doing recon on some potential applicants we could turn into recruits. Did, but I also decided to test my quirk limits. He felt hands slide over his sides and rest on his chest. Did you get these scars from fighting that gang last week? A few I got from training with Dad. I wanted it to be dangerous and he made sure that I didn't get killed by the machines. He looked down to see just air in front of him. So you can hide your clothes now. I tried, she whispered as he felt hot breath on his left ear, but I can only project that field for a few seconds. He turned around to see a CRP top and short shorts floating just on front of him. See. The CRP top disappeared. Izuku counted to 6, the top didn't reappear. He looked at the floor to see it crumpled up. Now we're even. Izuku wasn't sure of the emotion that filled his head, but he knew Toru had the same one in her head. Her breath was warm against his face. Let's be honest, we've been dancing around it for a while now. I like you and you like me. Even though Izuku couldn't see her, he knew she was smiling in the same way he was. Her arms rested on his shoulders. So want to make us official? Izuku picked up his phone and sent his dad 2 messages before grabbing Toru's thighs and picking her up, walking to his room. His messages to his dad were still open on the kitchen counter. Taking today off and may give Toru tomorrow off too so she can rest. Little did he know the messages would make his father chuckle before realizing and gong red in the face along with Inko, who read the message over his shoulder. The door closed as the sound of bodies falling on a bed could be heard. That night he rested on the edge of the building and watched some of the people he planned on corrupting if they could get into UA. His radio buzzed, "Hey, when are you coming back?" "Soon, I promise." He watched the people below him filter in the crowd. Toru sighed to him. "I want to go to bed. Go get some rest, babe. I'll be there soon, join me." "Of course I will." Smiling to himself, Izuku walked away and decided to make his way back to the apartments, changing out of his costume and climbing into bed next to Toru as the computer created his villain profile for his first public appearance. Midoriya Izuku, code name, Deku, quirk, corruption, ability. He can alter a person's personal beliefs, ideas and views to be more aligned with what he wants. This power gives him the ability to effectively brainwash people into following his lead or commands. Chapter 2, An alien experience. The sunlight was warm on his face as Izuku walked down the street holding Toru's hand. Today they were just relaxing after preparing for the exams for so long. At least Izuku hoped he could rest today, even he had to admit that they'd worked themselves to the bone. Toru's pacing told him that she was in great need of some relief. It was that moment they noticed an odd-looking girl running at them before turning sharply off into an alley, followed by several older-looking men all dressed in similar dirty clothes. Izuku stepped forward and turned down into the alley. "We're not doing this to be heroes, we're doing this because even villains think you people are some," Izuku growled. Toru let his hand go and disappeared. Her quirk had been trained to the point she could conceal even her clothing. Izuku was going to distract the group while Toru got behind them. The men all turned and drew blades. "And who's we, you little SHT, one growled weirdly. "We'll kill you." Izuku moved down the alley and quickly disarmed the man, putting the knife to their throat. "And what makes you think I won't?" Izuku bluffed. He wasn't going to kill just yet, but he did like watching the fear in the man's eyes. "I think I'll keep this one." The brawl began, but unfortunately for the men, Toru had already got behind them all and they were trapped between the 2 expert fighting teams. When they tried rushing all at once, the pair showed their coordination and took down the fighters by passing them to one another and dealing heavy blows. Soon the group was a pile of bruised body while the 2 teens were almost unharmed. Izuku approached the girl and noted her pink skin and equally pink hair as well as the 2 protrusions on her head that appeared to be made of bone. "Yo." He poked her head. "You like those guys?" "No, like society." "Not really, they all think I'm a monster, they're all scared of me. Did you want to become a hero?" Izuku engaged his quirk a little. "Yeah, and how about now you were just saved by 2 villains while no heroes are to be found?" "No, you absolutely sure about that?" "Yeah, want revenge?" "Oh, absolutely, whatever it takes." "Yeah, I absolutely do, they want to fear me, may as well give them a reason." Izuku deactivated his quirk. "Because all I've had to deal with is people coming after me because of how I look. My parents abandoned me because they finally snapped and called me out for the monster I am." "Did you apply to UA?" "Yeah, but I might withdraw. Before I ask any more questions, I must know." He held a hand out to the girl. "Do you want to come with up and get revenge on the society that cast you out?" Toru smiled as the pinkette took his hand and got up. Her name was Ashido Mina, but said Toru and Izuku could call her Mina, and she was more than happy to join their crusade. Izuku called his dad, who was delighted to know they were able to increase their numbers just before the exam, and even more so when Izuku told him that Mina had applied to UA before being corrupted. 3 is better than 2, Izuku agreed with his dad's exuberance, "but it'll be even better if all 3 of us get in, and perfect if we get into the same class." He could hear his father resisting laughter. "Oh my son, you've barely started and yet you're already showing better ideas than I did at your age. I was taught by the best." Izuku scored extra brownie points he could cash in later, maybe for a bigger apartment. His father did laugh at that. "And a silver tongue too. You truly are my son Izuku. I am so proud of you and how much you've grown your skills already. Izuku opened the door into the apartment, but remember your mother and I are going to be here if you do need help. Thank you Dad, I may take your offer sooner than I expect with my rate of success. Izuku smiled, talk to you later Dad, tell Mom I said hi, talk to soon Izuku. The phone call ended and Izuku looked at Mina and Toru already talking in the kitchen. Right, okay, Toru, you're alright bunking with me. Absolutely, great Mina you can take her old room then, any stuff from your old place you want. No, I'll get hold of the school to let them know my address has changed, I'll get you a villain costume sorted out that will be completely different so you can keep UA completely ignorant to what we're doing. Izuku smiled, from now on you're part of our family. Mina looked to him, and we won't abandon you, I swear on it. Her face didn't change. Do you think I'm a monster? No I don't. Izuku heard a knock at the door, his phone buzzed with a message from his dad. Play along. Izuku put it down and walked to the door and opened it slowly. Are you guys the new ones? An older teen with faded blue hair smiled. New what? Recruits. Sensei said I'd have company a few days ago and that you guys were going to be my new neighbors. He held out one hand. I'm Shigaraki Tamura. Izuku didn't shake his hand. Nice to meet you Shigaraki-san, call me Izuku. This is Mina Ashido and Toru Hagakure. I take it you're the first disciple of Sensei. Yeah, he brought me in a few years ago after something really terrible. He's let me come and go as I please so long as I keep it a secret who I am and who I work for, otherwise I've been pretty much allowed to do what I want. Izuku made a mental note to talk to his father about this. So are you guys a new team? I've been a solo operative for a while, yeah but you're welcome to join us whenever you want, just because we're villains doesn't mean we're lonely. Toru smiled, so what's your quirk? Something to do with touching items. Izuku rubbed his chin, that's why he was so ready to shake my hand. If he thought we were intruders then he would have used it to kill us immediately, so it has to be something quick that doesn't leave evidence. He snapped his fingers. Disintegration. You're able to make items decompose until it's dust. Wow, Sensei wasn't kidding when he said you were intelligent. Shigaraki grinned. But I don't have much control over it so I've been trying to learn. How over time? Izuku smiled and nodded. So the gloves in your hands are missing 2 fingers on each hand so I can hold things normally. The blue-haired boy shrugged, and maybe next time Izuku, keep the noise down. Especially since there's 3 of you now. Izuku rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, sorry, weren't know there was anyone else in the building. Sensei said you'd be out for the day. I woke up late. Shigaraki yawned. I've been taking to doing my thing when I'm not given a deadline. Izuku laughed. Well it was nice to meet you Shigaraki-san. If you ever need anything you know where we are now. Pleasure to finally meet some new faces. I'm up and over to the left one if you guys want me at some point. He put a glove on delicately and put the covered hand out. Izuku shook the hand firmly and the blue boy wandered off again. Izuku laid back on the sofa with Toru snuggled into one arm and Mina sat next to him with her hands on her lap. Toru tugged his sleeve and nodded slightly. Izuku cleared his throat. So Mina, Toru and I were talking, would you care to join us and cuddle? Izuku lifted his arm up. Mina moved almost sheepishly to him. Neither of us will bite, promise. She rested her head next to Toru's and Izuku put his arm delicately over her shoulder. He could feel her slowly start to relax and get comfortable in his arm. It was clear she was beginning to feel safe, which is what he wanted although again he wouldn't admit it, now anyway. Girls, I have a feeling this is the start of something amazing. Does this mean I can bunk with you guys? She looked up to Izuku. Maybe soon, just not yet. Thank you guys. I don't know if I can repay you. You don't need to repay us. We're villains and more importantly we're family and family help each other. Izuku grinned to her. So don't worry about that. He rubbed her arm. But just remember we're all in this together. The girls both nodded as he reached for blankets for each of them. Even as a villain he could still care about the people close to him. The next few days were a blur of training. Mina had an acid quirk and Izuku guessed her appearance and features were due to a side effect of her quirk. The 3 of them now stood outside of the most prestigious hero school in Japan, UA. Taking a girl's hand in each of his, Izuku led them both towards the entrance when he heard it. Deku, showing your face here. You've got ball you quirkless but, Izuku's eyebrow twitched. I didn't realize little beaches could get into UA. Izuku snarled at the blonde. How are you Bakugo? Still got that superiority complex? Or has it changed to mask your fear of being inferior? Izuku faced the blonde as small explosions danced over the latter's hands. Kill me. I urge you to try because last I checked, heroes don't kill people, or threaten to kill them. Izuku motioned for both girls to get behind him, preparing to fight. Still think you can win after the last beatdown I gave you? Just because you got lucky one time beach, and the other 400 before that. Even with an army of cronies you didn't touch me. The brunette closed his fists. Move along Bakugo and I might see you in the exam, the blonde growled, a vein popped on his forehead. You watch Deku, I'll take number 1 and then kick your butt to make sure you realize I'm better than you. Izuku just sighed, yeah sure whatever dude. He let the blonde walk past without a fight. Guy tried to bully me no matter how much I beat his butt, he explained to Mina and Toru as they walked. Mina had looked confused while Toru hadn't shown any expression since she was invisible. It had been her idea to pretend she couldn't turn her invisibility off to keep her identity secure, so all there was to see were her clothes floating as if possessed. They were about to cross the threshold when there was a person tapping his shoulder. Excuse me, did that guy call you a Deku? A brunette with hair similar in shape to a coconut muttered, pushing her fingers together. Izuku shrugged, another candidate. Nah, he's called me that for ages but it doesn't mean much, he's always been an but, he started doing it when we were kids and I found I was quirkless, that's so horrible, the brunette gasped, yeah well I kicked his butt when he tried to come at me so, Izuku smiled, all's good right. But a hero shouldn't call someone a Deku, they should call you Dikairu for, you can do it, they should be someone brave and doing what they can to help people, is that why you're becoming a hero? No, the brunette muttered shyly, I'm becoming a pro to support my parents, but the pay is CRP unless you're in the top 10, Izuku activated his quirk on the girl, that's not fair, telling you this will help unless they actually can, you're right but, I don't have many other options, do I? His quirk sowed the seed of doubt and he stopped using it on the girl. I'm Midoriya Izuku but you can call me Dikairu if you want to, I'm Uraraka Ochako, call me Uraraka, she smiled, my quirk is gravity manipulation, I can make objects or people weightless, even myself, but I do feel sick a bit afterwards, Izuku grinned, weakness, a means to corrupt and her quirk all at once, this girl was going to turn no problem. Well, good luck on the exam, hopefully we'll see you the other side, Mina smiled widely and jovially. Uraraka returned the smile and sped off. The trio once again made their way to the entrance and took their seats for the written exam. Izuku knew he, Toru and Mina would ace it but now it was the practical part of the exam. They were each sent to a different battle zone. Izuku felt confident. All 3 of them had been approved to have a few support items in the exam once they'd been approved to be non-lethal by the school. Doing some data mining Izuku had figured out that the exam would use robots as villains and so the 3 had studied a bit of coding while preparing so now they would win with ease doing similar things yet just different enough to not be accused of cheating. Mina would cause the robots to self-destruct one by one, Toru would reprogram one to fight for her and then more as she went along while Izuku would turn off every robot in his zone. The 3 all had a different type of laptop among their support items and engaged their strategy one at a time. Izuku would go from the start, Toru would go for the first fallen robot while Mina would run for 5 minutes before engaging her program. He practically led the group into the grounds until a blue-haired boy ran off ahead with engines in his calves. Relation to Ingenium most likely, meaning he's definitely a hero by BLD, no chance corrupting him, Izuku thought as they reached the city. He dived into the first alleyway and quickly found the first robot. Fortunately it had its back to him, allowing Izuku the second to leap on top of it and begin remotely hacking it. Soon enough he found the exploit and typed furiously. The robot buzzed as it powered off. He began moving again, hoping his coding had worked. It did. Robots deactivated until a low rumble could be heard and he saw it, a massive robot rising through the ground. Holy SHT, yelling Izuku ground to a stop, what the actual hell? Are they trying to kill us? He watched the rubble fall to the ground, and then a piercing scream. An opportunity. Izuku ran to see Uraraka trapped under some of the rubble and robot pieces, even better than a random person. He slid next to her and began typing furiously at his laptop. Robots from around the area began to power on and attack the monolith of metal. Izuku freed Uraraka from the trap and carried her away to safety before running back within range of the massive machine and typing again. It didn't slow down, but neither did he. The smaller robots had done damage to its legs. All he needed to do was increase their firing rate and then he could get into the beast. Fu, he chanted as he typed, oh definitely F whoever made this firewall, and done. He scrambled away as the large machine began to groan before it shut down completely and the smaller robots ceased firing. A klaxon sounded to signal the end of the exam. He rejoined the group as someone healed Uraraka's broken leg. You were mighty brave saving her, and then charging back to stop the threat. I just did whatever anyone did if they'd kept calm like an actual hero. Izuku knew his words would cut, which he wanted. These new upstarts would be ripped to shreds before they got onto the field by word or weapon, depended on how much Izuku liked them. The trio returned to the apartment and collapsed on the sofa. Izuku groaned at how sore his legs were without realizing how much running he'd done until he'd sat down on the bus back to the school's main grounds. Then Toru and Mina had supported him back to their place. He rubbed his thighs and stood up again. I'm going to have a shower. He clapped his hands and walked to the shower room. The hot water felt heavenly against his sore muscles and the steam helped numb his mind after thinking so much for the exam. As he rinsed his hair he felt a pair of hands against his back. Toru. I thought you didn't like hot showers. Well, I think I needed this. Her voice was in front of him. Izuku flicked his head over his shoulder to see a mess of pink behind him. Mina. In the exam, before I got a robot, I almost died and that got me thinking, she began, I know we haven't spent a lot of time together but you've already helped me feel a lot better about myself and I can happily say you've given me a chance to get back at the people that hurt me. I'm doing this not out of obligation but because I want to be with you, you and Toru. Izuku looked to the air and noticed a shimmer that seemed like a nod. If you join, you have to be with both of us, not just one, Izuku warned. Of course, that's what I want. Mina smiled to him as Izuku stretched his arms out and sandwiched himself between the girls. Even the water didn't steam the glass up as much as they did together. Chapter 3, A Heavy Situation. Izuku woke up, feeling most of his body pinned. He looked around to see blonde fluff on his left and pink fluff on his right. It took him a moment to remember the events of last night. Ah yeah, I need to get new handles for the doors, he mused almost silently as he remembered how Mina had melted through the door handle to the bathroom as she opened it in her haze while Toru and Izuku had kept her wanting more. Both girls now slept on his bare chest, both of them naked as well, and he remembered how the bed practically broke under the three of them giving into to their urges. He felt both girls breathing as they each hugged an arm between their busts. Slowly Toru woke up first and looked up at him gently. Morning you, Izuku smiled as she slid up his body and kissed him. His hand slowly moved underneath her and down her back to grab her soft butt, eliciting a small noise of pleasure from the girl. I will never understand how you're so good with your tongue. She laid her head on the pillow next to him and smiled again. You were unstoppable, and incredible. Mina yawned as she moved in a similar way to Toru, kissing Izuku and letting him get a handful of her butt. Izuku used his position to pull both girls up again and level with him. You were like a machine, Mina giggled. If every night is like last night I'll never get homework done. I wouldn't get too complacent, Spice. You'll get treated to last night as rewards for, good behavior. Izuku kissed her forehead. Same for you, sugar. SEC and things are normal but something like last night will be rewards. They both simply grinned in agreement. Now who wants to go and have some fun? Izuku rubbed the bridge of his nose. So, let me get this straight, Dad. He felt his father cringe at the words. You found the boy when he was just a few years older than me, took him in and left him in an abandoned block of apartments but let him wander off unsupervised. Did you learn nothing from the 3 blocks incident? Izuku's mind ran back to the fateful day when he had been home from school and Inko had to go on a training day at work, so Hisashi had been left in charge but had to go and fight a hero that was trying to claim they could rid the world of villains. In the resulting hours, Izuku, only 7 years old, got bored of cartoons and decided to go on a walk before promptly getting lost and hiding in an alleyway until Hisashi found him hours later only 3 streets away. I remember that incident, but Tamura had a better sense of direction. Why didn't you just tell us and let him become my older brother? Hindsight is 20/20 Izuku. Alright, with that out of the way, I'm going to need to borrow Kurojairi and his quirk at some point today cause the girls and I are going to do a bit of joyriding and will no doubt have the police on our tail. If you can't escape, call Kurojairi and he'll bring you all to the garage under your building. Otherwise I believe you have the capabilities to avoid the police long enough to change the license plates. Alright, thanks Dad, give Mum my love and I'll call again soon. Always good to hear my son is doing well. Hisashi hung the phone up with that and Izuku pocketed the phone. I suppose we should invite Tamura along. Izuku put his hands behind his head as Mina and Toru walked behind him. It's only fair, we should take him out and we can have fun together. Mina leant forward to him, like a real team of villains, and more hands make light work. Toru shrugged, besides we won't be able to hang out with him much once school begins. Izuku stopped, then I guess we're taking him with us. Izuku turned and knocked on the door. And remind me why we're going to joyride a car. Shigaraki muttered under his hood, because it's fun and we won't be able to hang out with you once we start school, so we're going to cram as much as we can in now. Izuku turned back to Shigaraki as the greenette pulled up his own hood. Mina wore her disguise that would hide her pink skin and other recognizable features while Toru walked next to Izuku completely invisible. Her clothes were supposedly covered by her quirk too, but Izuku preferred the alternate idea he made up while they'd waited for her to grab her phone from the apartment. The only thing telling him where she was the feeling of a hand holding his. They were walking through the streets about to head into the mall when they heard someone from an alleyway. Hey, you guys looking for something? A familiar voice greeted Izuku's ears. Mina and Toru recognized it too according to the fact they both gripped him tightly. Izuku gave a brief nod to Shigaraki and the four moved down the alleyway. Uraraka. Izuku put a warm smile on. His corruption had worked miles beyond his predictions. What are you doing down here? Dikairu. Her voice held fear and embarrassment. Oh no, this isn't good, she muttered quickly as the quartet moved down the alley. He began to recognize the brunette, badly disguised in a black hoodie about 2 sizes too big and a pair of black jogging bottoms that looked too long and too tight. You know me and can report me to the school, then I'll get expelled before. Hey, I'm not telling the starry-eyed dumbbuttes a thing. Izuku shook his head. Tell me what you're doing and we might be able to help you. Uraraka began crying. I'm selling drags to support me family. My dad's business isn't getting a lot of work because quirks make things so much easier and they're getting by, just barely. What if I told you that you didn't have to sell drags to support them? You could keep your place at school to become a hero and get back at society for screwing your family over. Izuku's quirk took a small hold of the girl's mind. Would you be willing to listen? Yeah, okay. She wiped her eyes. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, so, I'll prove it. The greenette grinned, but I need to know if you're in. Yes, I'm in, I'll do whatever it takes. Izuku took his phone out and texted his dad one more in the team going for a bank heist as well. He put his phone in his pocket and looked at Uraraka. You're going to need a disguise and nickname. Why? Because we're going to rob a bank. The sirens wailed behind them. Go, go, go. Shigaraki clung to the rooftop while Izuku sat in the driver's seat. How come I couldn't drive? Because I know the path to lose the cops quickest. Izuku yelled back up. He could see Mina in his peripheral vision, enjoying the adrenaline but also panicking at the red and blue lights flashing behind the car. He could hear Uraraka chattering and hyperventilating. Hey Ochako. Izuku glanced in the rear-view mirror and looked at her. Yeah. Shut up. Izuku sped the car up. Hanzi, can you climb back in? Maybe one of the back windows. There was a shuffling as Ochako opened the window and allowed the older teen to climb into the vehicle. Toru was sat invisibly on Izuku's lap, making herself as small as possible to prevent his driving from being restricted. Toru, honey, can you climb onto Mina's lap please? I'm going to need a lot of movement. The pinkette smiled lazily as the weight shifted from Izuku's lap. The seatbelt clipped out of the lock and moved around Mina before returning in a wider arc to the lock with the fabric now a body length away from Mina. Izuku gunned the engine and joined the highway. Are you mad? Shigaraki yelled, they'll get us for sure. Izuku just grinned. There was a car each side of him that had a similar model and the same color. Just ahead was a tunnel. No helicopters, no vision, no problem. Izuku kept a close eye on the police he'd left behind. As they tried to get onto the highway behind them, the getaway car moved into the tunnel. In that split second Izuku pulled their car forward and swung into the left lane, slamming the brakes on. The car behind blared their horn and swerved into the middle lane, now in place of the quintet's car. Izuku slowed the car down and pulled off the highway as the police force continued after the pair of cars on the highway. He could hear all four of them breathing heavily as he made his calmly through back alleys to the garage that sat under their apartment complex. As the car's engine purred to a silence, the tires all deflated from getting used so heavily. He calmed down relatively quickly and smiled madly. Who wants to go again? No. Came a collective synchronous response from the pale group. Ochako seemed motion sick, Shigaraki was sick out the window, Toru was about to pass out and Mina's skin had gone from pink to white. Izuku sighed, alright everyone please exit the vehicle at your own leisure and we'll split the money 5 ways. Izuku climbed out from the driver's seat and walked to the rear of the car, opening it to reveal several duffel bags of unmarked bills grouped together in piles. Uraraka, is this what you want? Because if not, you have this one opportunity to leave with the cash. We will never interact outside of school again and go our own ways. You will forget everything if you walk away now. The brunette held her stomach in one hand but still seemed to smile. I want to do it again. She held her stomach with both hands, but next time I drive, you turn way too sharply, so you agree to be a villain. That goes to UA in order to learn their weaknesses. Without a doubt, those guys are the reason we have so much SHT going on with quirk abuse and property damage. I'm done pretending they're all perfect goody two-shoes, then welcome to the club. Izuku held out a bag of cash to her, and the League of Villains. Izuku picked up his phone as he watched the news to see a message from his dad. Your mother and I would like to see you before you go off to school. Message me how many people you're bringing so we know how much to cook. Izuku messaged back Toru and Mina, can I invite Tamura too? I'll tell him how to act before we get there. He watched the car chase from the helicopter camera as he sped into the tunnel. Moments later the 3 cars reappeared and Izuku watched them purse the middle car until the feed cut to a bewildered man in the car crying and apologizing for whatever he did. His phone buzzed. Shigaraki can come but he cannot talk about what I did for him. Izuku just grinned. Hey girls, feel like going out to dinner? Both of them perked up. We're going to see my parents before we go off to school. They smiled and went into the bedroom to get ready. Izuku found himself in his own room looking at a white dress shirt, waistcoat and black slacks. When he'd put the pieces together he decided the finishing touch would be a green tie that matched his eyes and hair. Reaching into his pocket he pulled out some black leather gloves and delicately put them on before walking to the door. Girls, I'm just getting Shigaraki, then we'll be heading all right. Both of them yelled in agreement and Izuku walked down the halls to Shigaraki's apartment. The door opened before he could knock to reveal Shigaraki dressed in a smart casual black slacks and a basic dark blue dress shirt with the top button popped open and some blue gloves in his trademark style. So I take it you had to pull some strings. Not really, I figured you would deduce it in time. I thought it was odd how you seemed so well raised before getting into the place. Not to mention 2 of you were allowed in the same apartment when there's literally a block to choose from. Add the hair and eye color. I suspected it ever since you answered the door. You're sharper than he realizes. Izuku grinned, but you shouldn't call him sensei. Just call him sir or something until he tells you otherwise. Sounds fair enough. My mom will introduce herself in due time. Wonderful. Kurojiri smiled. Lead the way then. The 6 of them all sat around the table leaning on their chairs as they relaxed in their food comas. That was a delicious katsudon. Izuku patted his stomach. Always made the best mom. Inko just smiled to him. It's always been your favorite dish Izuku, so it's not hard to please you with it. Mina and Toru grinned as they committed that tidbit to memory. His phone buzzed and he excused himself momentarily. It was Uraraka calling him. Hey Uraraka, what can I do? He heard crying on the other end of the phone. My house, it was robbed. Izuku waited a moment. There's more. My parents ran away. They left me a note and a plane ticket. telling me that the burglar had been armed so they were forced to run. They told me to meet them at the airport but, Izuku froze, knowing exactly what would come next. They got in a car crash, they're both in intensive care, they might not wake up. His brain went haywire. He wasn't celebrating this fact. No, he was a villain not a monster, so he could feel sorry for his friend, but he also knew this played out very well. For him. Almost too well. Hey, Uraraka, don't cry, it'll be okay, you're free to stay with the rest of us as long as you need and we can get some cash whenever you need it. When you joined back at the car you became part of our family too. Izuku kept his voice level. There was no point putting on a voice, she'd see right through it, and we help each other instead of the world, so we'll meet you at the apartment soon, okay? Just grab some stuff and head over. Thank you Dikairu, no problem. Izuku grinned down the phone. The line went dead and he walked back to the table. His mother was out of earshot. Dad, you didn't perhaps organize a robbery and then hit and run, did you? Possibly, and were the victims the Ochakos perchance? The names ring a bell. Last question, you didn't happen to figure out that the newest member of our league is Uraraka Ochako at all? I may have stumbled upon the information at some point. Izuku practically growled and then shot a look at Shigaraki. That's funny because I remember stumbling into some info too. I think Mom would love it. Don't meddle again and I will. Izuku gave his father a pointed look. You above anyone know how well I can handle myself, Dad. I took care of Katsuki, didn't I? Turning his attention back to Shigaraki, do it again and I'll hurt you. He mouthed subtly. The blue-haired boy just nodded slowly. The two girls just looked between the three individuals. They knew that Izuku's father was good news but in a bad way. His calm demeanor, the skill he had with his knife, the slow high-class way he ate. Something about him just seemed dangerous. Izuku showed even more restraint than his father, keeping a flat face while his father had quickly stopped him from talking. Izuku showed no fear at the man, which meant that Izuku was either brave, stupid or equally as dangerous, better yet, more dangerous than his father, a fact which excited both girls. I hate to dine and dash but I've just received a phone call from a new teammate that they're run into a bit of financial trouble. Izuku addressed his mom while he stood up, and they've asked if they could crash at our place, so I have to get back before it's dark. That's fine honey, you know you're always welcome here anytime. Same goes for all of your friends too. She smiled warmly at the trio Izuku had brought with him. I'll see you soon Mom. He turned to his father for a moment. This is what happens when you meddle, he hissed through his teeth. The quartet left with several goodbyes and hugs. The brunette arrived 5 minutes after they did, giving Izuku and Mina enough time to move her stuff into his and Toru's room. Izuku had now dubbed it main room since it now had 3 inhabitants. Soon he'd need to get a larger apartment. He knew his dad would be more than willing after the events at dinner, but for now the 5 of them would live comfortably in the 2-bedroom place. Uraraka stood at the door holding back tears with just a suitcase and a backpack. Get in here. Izuku took the suitcase and dragged it to the newly vacant room. You can stay in this room until you want to move somewhere else. He threw the suitcase on the bed. I'll leave you to get unpacked. Dinner's in 10 minutes. Dikairu, what's your real name? Izuku Midoriya. Why? Because I'm part of this family, I need to know names. So you're really ready to accept being a villain? Where were the heroes when my house was robbed by a man with a gun? Where were the heroes when my parents had to flee and got in a car crash? Endeavor has a patrol go past my house every half an hour, so why wasn't it reported? I don't know, exactly, because they don't care. You guys do, so I'll make them care. We'll make them care. Izuku grinned. He hadn't even activated his quirk again, but here Uraraka was, promising loyalty to destroy the heroes. Welcome to the family. He hugged her. It didn't take her long to return the hug and began shaking. Hey Izuku. Yeah. Can I bunk with you 3 for a few nights? Izuku just laughed. Sure, we'll put your stuff in the room too. That night Izuku called his dad for a favor and soon enough they'd knocked down the wall between the 2 bedrooms to make one grand bedroom. The beds were all squished together while different cabinets and dressing tables were lined around the walls. Izuku looked at his handiwork and put down the spare pieces of carpet. It was a much nicer sight now. There was a sense of humanity to it. He repeated the mantra his dad told him whenever he asked about his parents being in love. We're villains but we're humans too, that's why his parents told him to use murder as a threat and a last resort. His dad's words echoed again, there are some killings I regret, most around the time I was still a fledgling villain so was too naive to realize the weight it carried. Despite my shortcomings as a father I will prevent you from making that mistake even if it's the only one I prevent. At that point his mother had chimed in. Remember Izuku, even heroes have families, which is why we debilitate, discredit and quirk. Your father gave up murder when we had you, so you won't be doing it either. Izuku had of course agreed with them, he loved his family and he knew that people would love theirs, so he would never do that unless it was the only way out. A weight on his chest pulled him from his thoughts. Unknowingly he'd gotten into his pajama bottoms and climbed into bed, Toru making herself comfortable on his right arm, Mina making herself comfortable on his left and now a mess of brown hair rested on his chest. Sorry, Uraraka muttered, it's the only comfortable place left, if you're going to lay there could you pull the blanket up for me? Izuku acted totally calm, oh and feel free to get comfortable there whenever you want, he winked to her and she blushed, I'll keep that in mind. She kissed his chest before curling up and closing her eyes. Izuku put his head down on his pillow and smiled to himself. Not only did he have 3 team members now, but he had 3 very wonderful girls to live with. Life is good, he told himself quietly resigning to the darkness of sleep. Chapter 4, Different songs to the same tune. Izuku checked his watch, he still had 10 minutes before homeroom began. All according to plan. He was walking on his own as he shouldered his bag. The girls had all gone off ahead of him, Uraraka on her own, Mina and Toru in a pair with him the last to leave. It was in order to avoid suspicion if the 4 students all turned up together at once but if his plan worked during homeroom then he'd never have to worry about it again. The smile on his face never left even as he approached his classroom, UA would burn first. Then the hero society would soon follow. The door opened and he stepped into the classroom quietly. Midori. He heard Mina's voice, Midoriya. Toru and Uraraka both snapped their heads in his direction before all 3 girls moved over to him, Ashido. Uraraka. Hagakure. Izuku feigned surprise, you guys got into UA as well. They had a brief group hug, I haven't seen you guys for weeks, I was worried you'd been rejected and didn't want to talk. I was busy, Mina sighed, since I live so far away I've been looking for anywhere that'll give me a room, and you didn't think to message me. Izuku smiled, my place is like a 20-minute walk from here and my folks would be more than happy to help. Mina's demeanor changed, you do that for me Midori. Really? Ah thank you. She hugged him and bounced up and down. Good acting, he whispered to her, Uraraka I take it you're in the same predicament. The brunette nodded and looked at the floor, well my place has a few extra rooms so I'll see how far I can twist my parents' arms, Midoriya. Toru tugged his sleeve, sorry I didn't come round, my parents wanted me to revise so much and I just forgot to come knocking this morning, no worried Hagakure, it's only natural, you are a block closer to UA, I'll knock on my way from now on like you did in middle school, he grinned. Deku. Izuku's face fell, how the F did you get here? I walked, Izuku snapped. There were several small explosions from the blonde as he seethed in silent response. You know that's not what I meant BSTRD and how come you've got 3 beaches? Izuku grit his teeth. Call them that again and I'll show you what I did to Iwatanabe back in middle school, he held up a finger, and secondly. I met Hagakure in middle school, she would talk to me without fear because she's invisible, but she was in a different class to us. Ashido I met before the entrance exams while I was out shopping, she and Hagakure became friends faster than I did with either of them after I introduced them. Uraraka I met at the entrance exams, saved at the entrance exams, and we've been friends ever since. Izuku smiled to her before turning to the explosive student, unlike you and I, we need to catch up soon. Mina eased the tension, you busy today after school? No, why don't we all go to the arcade? To celebrate all getting into UA and the same class. The 3 girls all agreed. Izuku could feel the jealous stares from a boy with blonde hair and a black streak and a boy with purple orbs for hair. Those 2 were definitely perverts, well at least the purple one since he was foaming at the mouth and drooling at the same time, the blonde, maybe a bit better since he was only glaring. Hell with it, why don't we all go? We all worked hard to get here, might as well get to know each other. Everyone stared at him. Oh how silly, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Midoriya Izuku and I'm the quirkless candidate that wiped the exam. The class practically exploded. A few hours later Izuku was tapping his foot. School was just about to finish, people had agreed to join him at the arcade after school, so everyone was excited. His homeroom teacher Aizawa Shota, otherwise known as Underground Hero Eraserhead, had put them through a physical exam to find the limits of their physical abilities. Izuku had trained and done his best, scoring in the top 5 overall. The girls weren't far behind him, but even so they'd all been worried about the threat of being expelled Aizawa had put forward, only to find out that he'd lied to them as a logical deception. Izuku wanted to call bullshit but bit his tongue. Now Aizawa stood at the front of the class talking about expectations and rules. Izuku was bored as SHT, you guys can go away now. Izuku was first gone, leading the way with a group of people behind him all heading towards the arcade. Mina, Toru and Uraraka caught up with him easily and the four led the charge of UA students, loosening ties and taking off blazers as they tore through the city. The arcade was practically empty due to school literally just finishing, and it meant the newest heroes in training could choose what they wanted to do. Mina and Toru gave Izuku a quick hug and kiss each before running off to play DDR, while Uraraka decided to go for the strength tester, obviously cheating by touching the metal bar to make it lighter and easier to hit upwards. Izuku found himself with pockets full of cash and helping other students win tickets for prizes. As he stood playing a game of pinball for himself, he saw somebody hanging around the door covering their ears. Izuku recognized the earjack user Jiro Kyuka and walked over to another student, Momo Yayorozu, creation quirk user. Hey Yayorozu, can you make a pair of noise-dampening headphones? Izuku applied his quirk to the black-haired girl. I shouldn't use my quirk so commonly, it's just a one-off thing, in exchange I'll win you a few tickets. He grinned boyishly. Alright, but just this once. Izuku smirked. Once a crack appears it become easier to break, he thought to himself. He could break the straight-laced girl at some point, slowly wearing her down, but her quirk and natural abilities were more than worth the time it would take. For now he had an easier target in mind. Help me win this shooting gallery game and I'll do it. Izuku picked up the plastic gun and aimed at the screen, firing a tester shot. What was that for? That, Izuku made the motion to reload his virtual gun, was to tell me the sensor is 3 mm off to the right, won't do much for the regular levels but it'll come in handy for boss fights. Not 5 minutes later Izuku was stood at the same game showing off his quick draw skills, keeping the gun pointed down to reload and flicking it up to fire at and hit 6 targets at a time. He was now on the final boss level of the game and had amassed a small crowd watching him. Midoriya, 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 they chanted over and over as his eyes moved across the screen constantly. His character had 1 hit left and the boss was nearly down. Izuku put his hand to his hip one last time as a virtual projectile was thrown at him. It was all over. His wrist flicked and the machinery in the gun clicked 6 times, the projectile exploded and the boss died. Izuku lifted his hands in surprised victory as the crowd behind him lost it cheering. Tickets poured out of the machine and Yayorozu handed him the set of headphones. If you need something else I'll have to ask for. A show just like that, she smiled as his name Izu sat at the top of the leaderboard with an unbeatable 99,999,999 points. Izuku just smiled and took the headphones. Pick your prize wisely, it'll cost you for more tickets. His smile became a coy grin as he walked away. Over to Jiro Kyuka. Hey, he greeted her with a flick of his head. She kept her hands over her ears firmly but nodded in greetings. Figured you could use something like these. He handed her the headphones. So now you can go have fun. Her face lit up as she quickly took the headphones and put them on her head. Thank you. Wow, these really work. I can't hear anything. She yelled at him. Izuku motioned with his hands for her to lower her voice. His quirk began taking effect again. Just read my lips. Had Yayorozu make them for a couple thousand tickets. Thanks Midoriya. Her voice was still loud. Call me Izuku. Care to go play a game? You ever played Guitar Hero Izuku? No. Is it any good Jiro? You can call me Kyuka. You've earned it after all. She read his lips the first time and then became shocked after processing the next sentence. Is it any good? She gasped and grabbed his wrist, dragging him through the arcade to the two-player game. It's rhythm-based, so you shouldn't find it too hard. She grinned menacingly at him. I'm the best though. Izuku put change in the machine and they each picked up a plastic guitar. You should be able to figure out the game. He nodded and flicked through the songs, finding the hardest to play and selecting the hardest difficulty. Talk about go big or go home. Kyuka grinned, matching his selection. What's the wager? Loser has to get a bento for the winner. You're on. Kyuka looked ecstatic. Oh, I'm going to get that squid bento from the nice place near my house. They began playing. It was quite literally neck and neck as they came near the end of the song. Izuku could see Kyuka's disbelief and determination. His reflexes and dexterity were the only reasons he hadn't been demolished yet. He could hear the end of the song and decided to put his guitar down just before hitting the last note, costing him the match. Kyuka put her guitar down and dragged him outside, taking her headphones off. How about we swap that bento for a dinner? Izuku had a devilish look on his face. Kyuka went red and looked at him. You threw the match. What's wrong with you? I thought it would be harder than that and I really wanted to buy you dinner. Izuku shrugged. I figured letting you in at something would make you less aware of the fact I would be buying you dinner since you won and all. The purple-haired teen shoved him. That's not fair, she muttered, looking away from him. Why didn't you tie? We could have split the bill, and if I wanted to treat you instead of splitting the bill. Her face reached the color of a tomato, so I'll meet you at yours for say 7. Okay, she twiddled her fingers together. Sure. They quickly exchanged phone numbers and Izuku nodded with a smile. It's a date, he declared jovially. Kyuka went even redder. If it were possible. Don't say it so loudly. Oh. Is the outgoing punk rock girl shy about feelings? Izuku teased. In response, the earjack user simply poked him with her quirk's namesake and looked at her feet. Okay, I pushed too far this time, he admitted aloud. Trying to corrupt you, he added mentally, so I'll be at yours for 7, right? Why yeah, sure. Kyuka smiled awkwardly and put a hand to her headphones. Care to go play some more? I thought you'd never ask, he grinned as Kyuka put the ear defenders on and walked next to her, their index fingers wrapped together. Izuku stood at the door, dressed in a semi-casual look, a black and red checkered plaid shirt with a black tie loosely around his neck under the collar, dark jeans with a silver-clasped black belt around his waist and some white-toed black sneakers. He also wore a leather jacket he'd procured on short notice for the evening. He couldn't hear anything behind the door until it was opened in a swift yet gentle manner by Jiro Kyuka. She was dressed in faded blue jeans and a black shirt with AC/DC printed on the front. The collar was designed to be slightly too large and showed off Kyuka's shoulder and part of her BR strap. Izuku smiled. You look incredible, he mused for a moment. Shall we? Holding out one arm bent at the elbow, he gave a warm look at the hesitant girl. I feel like I should go change. Nonsense, you look wonderful, Izuku reassured her and activated his quirk. Really? Of course. Kyuka's face lit up and she grabbed Izuku's arm, then lead the way. The two walked away from Kyuka's house and into the city center. Hey Green. Yeah. Thanks. For earlier, my ears are super sensitive to loud noises and I was debating whether or not to go home. Her hands moved so she could lock arms with him, but I'm glad I didn't. They continued walking for a moment. Kyuka began shivering slightly. Izuku took his jacket off and gently draped it over her shoulders. She turned and looked up at him before smiling and pulling the jacket over her. Izuku rolled up his sleeves and sighed. Are you sure you won't get cold? I prefer the cold, to be honest, he grinned. Lets me know I'm still alive. I know, dramatic, but I get it. Kyuka nodded. It's to feel something that isn't something in your head. Yeah. Izuku smiled as a warm light came from behind Kyuka. Oh, we're here. They were stood outside of a little bistro cafe. I know it's not a classy restaurant or some popular club, but I figured a quiet, slow evening would be more enjoyable for you. Kyuka surprised him with a warm hug. Thank you, she whispered to him. That's so considerate. Izuku just returned her hug. Shall we? They walked into the warmth together. The nightlife had all but begun when the two left the cafe. Izuku stretched his arms out and yawned. That was nice, yeah, Kyuka muttered, thanks for this. They began to walk down the street. Izuku put one arm around Kyuka slowly, she didn't protest. There was a movement from beside them. They both tensed as there was a flash of silver in the moonlight. Come here, a hoarse voice instructed. Izuku shifted to put himself between Kyuka and the person. Come on, hurry up. Izuku walked down into the alley. What are you doing? Kyuka's voice hissed, he's going to kill you. It's fine, there will be a hero around here. Izuku just smiled to her, heroes are always there when you need them. In truth, he knew exactly how this could play out, and none involved heroes, two involved getting hurt and one meant he'd be dead in the morning. He felt Kyuka follow him. What are you doing? You'll need help buying time until a hero arrives, she whispered. You are going to get yourself killed. He muttered back, run and get help. No, she told him. Are you two lovebirds done? Izuku looked at the mugger. Now hurry it along, wallet, keys, purse, jewelry, all of it. Now Izuku raised his hand and began taking off his watch, letting it hit the floor. Pick it up. A fire burned Izuku's stomach. This prick had no idea who they were screwing with. As he stopped down, he tackled the figure and began attacking them. Bang! The mugger turned and ran away. Izuku clutched his side as it grew warmer. He became acutely aware of Kyuka screaming. Stumbling to the wall, Izuku rested against it. He groaned in pain as Kyuka crouched next to him. Oh God, why? He would have shot us anyway. This way you didn't get hurt and he got scared, but a hero wouldn't know about this unless they heard the gunshot. Looking, he smiled. Pass me my watch please, Kyuka. She passed him the timepiece and he casually put it on his wrist. Why wasn't a hero here? She began crying. They're supposed to be here when you need them, because he wasn't a villain. You ever seen a report of a hero catching a regular old street thug? Izuku smiled. I'm fine, I just need to get to a hospital. I'll call an ambulance. Izuku shook his head and stood up. No, I can. He passed out. His eyes snapped open and he groaned slightly. There was a pain in his side. Izuku, looking to his left, the boy saw his father sat in a chair looking at him calmly. You've been in hospital for half a day. I missed school. Unfortunately so, but your young friend explained it all to me. Your mother called the school and they understand. They actually praised your actions to save a schoolmate. Hisashi leant in closer. But you weren't doing it to be a hero. Izuku laughed. Maybe in part, but I knew that the end scenario would be worth it. He tried sitting up slightly. I knew that if I got hurt, especially badly, her faith would be shaken. She'd be even easier to corrupt. I take it you insisted she go to school. While you sat here with me, his father nodded. Yes, you were stable from the moment I got here, which was very comforting. Izuku saw something he'd never seen before on his father's face, concern. I fought heroes that claimed to be gods, villains that threatened my empire, and legions of the best heroes time and time again, but nothing brought me to my knees. Then I saw you lying in that bed and it took every ounce of control I had to not cry. Izuku smiled warmly. You're my son, my boy, and you almost died. Nah, Izuku shrugged. I wasn't going to die. The bullet didn't hit anything too vital. Besides, I'm guessing the doctor here was a healing quirk user, not even a hero. Hisashi nodded. I'm glad you're safe now, my boy. Your mother has been, shall we say, concerned about the incident and more than willing to find the man that did it. Don't bother. Izuku waved a hand. You'll see him on the news soon enough. I corrupted him to regret his life choices. You've taken a life. No, I've got him to the point he'll hand himself in, crying like a little child. Izuku shrugged. How long until school is over? Actually, the faculty called your mother. School's over and some staff are on their way with students that want to make sure you're okay. They'll be here any moment. I'll leave just before then. All right, Dad. Sorry I made you and Mum worry. Izuku smiled. But hey, at least I'm here still. Hisashi stood up and stroked his son's hair, and the heroes weren't. Anger flashed over his face. But I suppose that works in our favor now. He began leaving the hospital room, and Izuku, I would greatly appreciate if you could stay out of trouble for a few days. Your father has an old heart. They both chuckled. Sure, Dad, I'll do my best. Love you. I love you too, Izuku. Hisashi walked out of the room and sighed, barely holding back the fear, sadness and rage. Izuku now sat up more correctly and looked at the window. Footsteps outside made him turn towards the door. A flurry of people burst in and Izuku suddenly felt very outnumbered. Izuku. Kyuka was first to his side. Thank God you're okay. Your dad came in and told me I needed to get to school. I'm sorry I didn't stay. I thought you would die while I was at school. Kyuka, hey, Kyuka, Izuku began. Calm down. Kyuka took a deep breath. Doc said nothing vital was hit and I didn't lose a lot of BLD, so. He smiled. I'm alive. Mina and Toru's floating clothes stood on the other side of his bed and looked down at him. I was wondering what you meant when you said you had plans. Min smiled. Didn't realize you were going to get shot. Toru's shirt appeared to nudge Mina. He could have died. Weren't there any heroes nearby? No, according to the heroes in the area they were too far away to do pickup on anything. While the gunshot got their attention they weren't able to get there before they found Kyuka with Midoriya passed out in her arms. Aizawa spoke from the door. As for you problem child, I've got some class work you need to do. Izuku nodded. I also came to chaperone this lot. He flicked his head towards the group. It was most of his classmates. Kirishima Ejiro, Kaminari Denki, Shoji Mizo, Todoroki Shoto. Tenya Ida and Sato Rikido of the boys and all of the girls, including one he didn't know very well, Azui Tsuyu. They were all concerned about you. You've left quite an impression after yesterday's display of ability and the idea for the arcade after school. His entire target list stood in the room, with the exception of Tokoyami Fumikage, but that could be handled later. I didn't realize there'd be so many people concerned about me. He smiled. You guys can all call me Izuku. Midoriya. Ida bowed. Sorry, Izuku, you have shown true qualities of a hero. I must apologize. At first I thought you were a show-off, but now I see you are one of the most heroic in the class. Please call me Ida. It's okay, Ida. I can see where you were coming from, but don't worry about it anymore. Izuku waved a hand. We're cool, Izuku. Ejiro grinned and held up a clenched fist. You were so manly, taking a bullet even though you had the disadvantage. You fought hard. His eyes closed and a single tear moved down his face. There's nothing manly about getting shot. Izuku grinned. If you were there you would have been more manly, taking the shot to the face after hardening with your quirk. Ejiro grinned playfully at the thought. I did what I did because I had to. There weren't any heroes at all nearby. I could have done something, Kyuka muttered. No, because you would have got in trouble for unlicensed use of your quirk. Like it or not, this was the best outcome. Aizawa had moved into the room, sitting in the same chair Izuku's dad had. Rage boiled in the bed-bound boy. How dare a hero sit where his father sat, acting like nothing could have been done, when a lot of other things could have stopped the incident. Midoriya. Izuku, you acted in self-defense without use of a quirk in defending a classmate. I imagine police will want to speak to you if not the heroes. No, Izuku's voice was level only for the one word. What? No, I'm not talking to anyone. Police weren't there because the heroes were supposed to be, which they weren't, because their patrols didn't go by the area. And why is that? Izuku turned to his teacher. Is it pure coincidence? Or is it because most heroes walk on the streets and make their routes public and thereby predictable? Just to get some attention, the class all looked between the injured by and their teacher. This might be BLD loss or tiredness talking, but heroes aren't here for helping us, they're here for attention. Yet underground heroes exist, and you've had to take up teaching to support yourself, and tell me even present Mike is teaching but he's a radio host at the same time. How poorly does it pay to be a hero that isn't in the top 10? Izuku's quirk had been in effect the moment people walked into the room. Even his teacher had been affected, but targeting so many at once meant the power was less than if he focused on a single person. It would still work, however. Kyuka leant into him. My parents are going out tonight. Care to finish our date? Her face was red but she still smirked at him. He grinned slyly and grabbed her hand. I guess I owe you a less scary evening, huh? Same time tonight? Absolutely, Kyuka smiled. The redness had faded with her laid-back smile. The bed groaned underneath them, but Kyuka was louder as her fingers dragged down Izuku's back, her legs wrapped around his waist. His hands held her waist and pulled her to him with each move. He put his shins down on the bed and lifted his hands to her shoulders. In one movement he leant back and lifted her up, making her even more. Her fingernails dug into her back harder than before as their bodies pressed together. Izuku never stopped moving his hips as he took them off the bed and pressed Kyuka's back against the wall. Her words were non-existent as she could only his name. Her head moved back against the wall and he took the moment to kiss her, his tongue moving into her mouth and tangling with hers. She into his mouth now, their breath mixing together. Her legs wrapped tighter around his waist and her hands were under his arms reaching to his shoulders and her hands trying to clench with his flesh. His hands were back on her hips, lifting her up and down against each move of his hip. She broke the kiss by throwing her head back against the wall and screaming. Izuku felt the pressure build up in his member and groaned. "Izu, let it go, let it all go." She Her body began shivering as he felt himself finishing. Her limbs went limp as her head rested on his shoulder, her breath heavy. "Jesus," she gasped. Izuku fell out of her but still kept his hands on her butt, holding her up against the wall. He carried her back to the bed and laid down next to her. That was incredible. Kyuka looked over to him, seriously, "Wow Izu, I didn't know you could be so powerful, not bad for a guy with a bullet wound." He grinned, but in all seriousness that was mind-blowing. "Kyuka, no Izu, you were mind-blowing." She pulled up the covers. "I guess it's just a good thing you wore your uniform over this time. Well, I figured I'd stay the night regardless. Someone wanted to get lucky, huh?" "Oh, I got them lucky, I got blessed." Izuku rolled over to face her. "You deserve some fun time after what happened anyway." Her voice was bitter. "Not that this was pitsec, I didn't think it was, I could tell you wanted it." He grinned, "But heroes should have been there, they should have stopped you from getting shot, getting hurt, but they weren't, they were busy showing off and being all flashy and loud and things. I heard a hero finish a fight literally down the street from where we got mugged as the gun is pulled on us. But the hero looked the other way." Izuku pulled Kyuka into his chest. "I hate them," she whispered, "I hate them all. I'm still here, but what do you mean hate them? Promise you won't think badly of me, promise." "I want to be a villain and make them pay, for focusing too much on their images instead of doing what's right." Izuku held her tightly. "You want to be a villain? Please don't tell anyone. I'm not sure if I can do it." "I won't tell anyone, in fact I'll help you." Izuku held her closely. "I want to do the same, especially when you were put at risk. Heroes have always focused on image more than anything. Some focus on power but most it's image, really." "Of course, in fact I've got my little team going already and I think they'd love to have you join in." He felt Kyuka smile into his chest. "By the way you're ripped Izu." "Thank you Kyuka." The two began to fall asleep together. He woke up to someone kissing him. Izuku went to move his arms around the body but found them restrained up by the headboard by wire-like objects. He felt the person lift their weight from his lips and move down to his chin. "Ah," his voice was soft. He didn't know what the time was but he knew to be quiet. Cracking open one eye he could see Kyuka's hair falling down the side of her face as she bit an sked on his skin. Her ear jacks were extended out and wrapped around Izuku's wrists and keeping them stuck to the bedposts. "You had your turn, now I take control," Kyuka whispered as she clamped her mouth down on his chest, eliciting another from the greenette. He didn't know what to do with his body, knees bending and arms struggling against the bindings. "Oh God," was all he could manage. "Warmed up are you?" She teased. "Well if you're going to stick it up, I might as well use it." Her body was warm as she lowered herself onto him, both in pleasure. Kyuka began moving her hips up and down while continuing to give Izuku hickeys. He bit his lip to stop the loud he surely would have made. It wasn't long before her ear jacks released him as she gave in to the pleasure. Izuku wasted no time turning her around and threading his arms under her legs, putting her into a full Nelson position. Her head lolled back as he heard her ragged breathing. "I'm always in control," he whispered to her, "always." His hips began moving more powerfully as Kyuka tried her best to keep quiet. He could feel the pressure again as Kyuka's voice got higher as her body edged closer. Their voices mixed as they both finished together with a powerful each. Izuku lowered his arms and she rolled over, settling on his chest. "If you're going to do that, take control whenever you want," she whispered as his arm came up and wrapped around her. "I'll hold you to that." He pulled the covers back up and they both fell into a deep sleep again. Chapter 5, Leapfrog. The class all cheered as Aizawa tiredly announced they were going to be training at the USJ. Izuku smiled and sighed. since he was working as an insider that meant he could either leak the information and get them attacked or keep suspicion at an all-time low and just suffer through the field trip. His smile widened at the thought of being let loose in such a high-tech area. He joined everyone else mindlessly wandering to the changing rooms to get their costumes on and head for the coach that would take them from the school grounds to the USJ Center. As the boys all took off ahead of him, Izuku sat back pretending to adjust his costume before pulling out his phone and dialing his dad. Yes. Hisashi's voice came through the other end. We're going to the USJ. If there is any plan to attack it, please either don't or make sure it looks like it is disorganized. If Kurogyri is going to be there, I'll text who to put into groups. But please do not bring more than one Nomu. I can arrange all of those things easily, so don't worry, Hisashi reassured him. I'll see you for dinner this weekend. Of course, can I bring everyone? There was indistinct chatter for a brief moment. Your mother says the more the merrier, and I won't argue as long as they are polite. Yeah, they will be, don't worry, do bring the 3 girls again. Your mother did love talking to them. You got it, Dad. Bye, love you. Goodbye, Izuku. I love you too. Izuku tucked his phone away in his pocket and left for the door. He was greeted by the rest of the class standing around by the coach. Sorry, Sensei, I couldn't find my wire refills or med kits. You should keep track of your things, Midoriya. I know, Sensei. Sorry, I put them in the wrong pockets by mistake. Everyone loaded onto the coach and it pulled away slowly. Izuku adjusted his mask as the group all unloaded from the coach and stretched their legs. Kyuka, Mina, Uraraka, and Toru joined him and began chatting merrily. Oh. Your folks want to meet me. Kyuka smiled. I'd be happy too. Are they very religious or conservative? No, they understand people live different lives. Izuku smiled and put a hand around her waist. Besides, if you wanted to move closer to school, they'd want to know you before I offered you a place. Seriously. Kyuka's face went red. You do that for me? Sure, as long as you don't mind sharing with Mina, Uraraka, and Toru. Nah, as long as I get a piece I'm happy. She pecked his cheek. Another roomie. Alright, Mina cheered, ever the social creature. But you'll see what we're really like after we get home. You can move in at your leisure, but you don't have to if you don't want to. My folks have been talking to me about moving out, so. Kyuka shrugged. Shortly after you sneaked out of my window, my parents came in to talk about finding my own place. They knew you came last night and support me, but they think I should find my own place before things get too. She blushed. Rowdy. Great. Izuku smiled. So it's the 5 of us. Kyuka will move in as soon as possible. The group moved into the USJ. He was falling. Izuku made a mental note to ask Kurogyri if next time he could leave them closer to the floor. Izuku took note of his surroundings and saw a green object falling. Azui! He yelled, grab my neta. His own cord buzzed and attached to a tree, swinging him down gently to the floor. A small purple figure was thrown into a tree next to him as Izuku felt something land into his outstretched arms. Oh hi, his grin widened as Azui Tsuyu wrapped her hands behind his neck and hugged him. His quirk began working on the girl. He decided to try and grope me, so I threw him, she admitted directly. Izuku let her down gently and looked to her. Are you okay? He didn't get far. Only went for my tips, but I threw him before he could get a proper handful. Izuku turned to the purple boy who was currently getting up from the floor after sliding down the tree he'd crashed into. With one strong movement, Izuku picked my neta up and threw him back into the tree. I'll get you down when you stop being such a perverted PP. Even villains have better standards than you. Excuse us. Izuku turned to see several random villains beginning to circle him and Azui, but what? Pervert, groped her. The villain raised an arm and looked horrified. Wants to be a hero to get women, that's F up. The villain looked at the purple boy lodged in the tree. You're a disgrace, says a villain. Yes, I'm a villain, but I have F lines I do not cross. F you. I don't swing that way. Izuku chuckled. Now down to business. I don't suppose you'd be interested in surrendering. No, but I do have a compromise. He pulled out his tape. I'm sure that if you guys come quietly you'll be given smaller sentences. The villains all looked towards each other for a moment. Look, I'm guessing your employer already paid you. Just spin some SHT about them saying this was supposed to be a play or something and then someone warped you out here. Izuku tilted his head. You'll get off even easier. Why not? I don't want to get my face smashed today, I've got the cash, each. Villain stepped forward calmly and allowed Izuku or Azui to arrest them. The first villain smiled to Azui, not that I condone such acts but that purple perv may have got one thing right, and that would be. Izuku looked towards him, the girl in green is cute, my thoughts as well, Izuku grinned as the frog girl went bright red. The villains all sat in a circle. Mineta was still stuck in the tree. Hey! Get me down from here. Not happening, Izuku barked back, not until you learn to behave like an actual person. He grabbed Azui's wrist, come on, we need to go and see if we can help others. Yeah, hopefully they're as peaceful as those guys. I doubt it, Izuku shrugged. Azui didn't realize he'd used his quirk to make the villain so civil and docile. I'm just glad I said the right words. They continued running. Izuku, yeah Azui. Call me Tsuyu, all my friends do, are we lost? He grit his teeth, he'd mislead her as much as possible to maximize how much he could use his quirk non-verbally on Tsuyu. I don't know Tsuyu, I think so. He reached into a pocket of his costume and pulled out a butterfly knife. I'll just leave a nick in the trees on our right so we know which way we came from. He turned around to the frog girl, you okay Tsuyu? You look out of it, I'm not built for forest areas, especially low moisture ones like this. She seemed to breathe. Izuku walked over to her, want to hitch a ride? He began using more of his quirk on her, you're for real. Yeah, hop on, pun not intended, and call me Izuku. He felt the weight on his back increase as Tsuyu climbed onto him. Thanks Izuku, she whispered into his ear, does this mean I'll get a piece too? He could feel her hot breath on her ear. I saw Jiro's bow-legged walk to the changing room and onto the coach, then Uraraka, Mina and Toru all smiled and nodded before Toru told her it would go by the time the trip ended. Izuku's eyes went wide as Tsuyu nibbled the helix of his ear, then when the time comes I'll make yours last 2 days, he grinned smugly. Now I am excited, she whispered, her tongue playing with his ear. Izuku just smiled again, 2 more in the team but now he met a roadblock. Momo would take a while to break down so he would need to work on her while expanding the rest of his team. The question was who, the only 2 guys that would either he could get close enough either to hated him, Bakugo, or seemed to straight-laced that it'd take something massive to change him, Ida. The others were too dense, Kirishima, Denki and Shiro, too quiet, Koda, Sato and Shoji, too emo, Todoroki and Tokoyami, or just too flashy and useless to him, Aoyama. He slowed down as he saw the edge of the forest approaching. So when do I prove that I want to be a villain and remove the heroes that use their position for CC and drags, oh? Since when did you know that 80% of heroes have a drag use problem? I didn't, how did you? Lots of research leads to lots of info. Izuku shook his head, Endeavor is an alcoholic, Present Mike does cane, Midnight I'm pretty sure is a weed addict. He was about to shrug before he remembered he had Tsuyu on his back, and they use their titles as free pass cards, so their dealer or in some like Endeavor's case bars, get bragging rights, and we need to change that, but before we can change the world we'll need to burn it down. He finished Tsuyu's sentence, go to the others in the school and take these with you. Izuku took water bottles out of his pockets and handed them all to her, you need them more than I do, even the way you are normally seems heroic, just helping someone in a way heroes don't care to. Izuku shrugged, now go to the others, I need to go and save Aizawa-sensei. They split paths. Behold Eraserhead, the tool of your demise. Izuku heard Tamura talking and grinned, a beast that's designed to take down even All Might himself. Izuku leapt forward and began using his quirk on the Nomu to make it calm down. What's up? Izuku yelled, landing and throwing a punch towards Tamura, who blocked it with ease. The two began brawling it out. Izuku grew close and spoke to Tamura as they sparred, so what's with the attack? Just to make the school less suspicious anyone could act out, Tamura returned with an equal volume, so how's classes? Yeah, fine, I've got another in the group, cool, by the way Dad came clean to Mom about me, she was very sympathetic and they filled out the application to make me part of the family. If I was younger they would have adopted me but as it stands they let him be part of the family, so you're Midoriya Tamura. Nice, I always wanted an older brother. Izuku grinned, so how's Dad? Concerned about you getting caught but Mom is much worse, she stresses constantly. Izuku ducked under a powerful left hook and returned with a right jab, please tell her to drink some herbal tea now and again, it helps reduce her stress, I'll pass it on." Izuku planted a kick firmly into Tamura's chest. "For now I have to at least look like I've defeated you so you don't look suspicious." Izuku nodded. "Sorry." Tamura quickly laid the pain into Izuku by showing his superior speed and strength, leaving Izuku winded and stumbling backwards. "Now die." Tamura dashed forwards, but the signature capture tape of Izuku's homeroom teacher wrapped his wrist and pulled hard, causing Tamura to hit the floor. Tamura screamed in anger. "Shigaraki, time to go." The Nomu was useless. Purple mist swallowed Tamura and the hulking blue beast that had been stood still after the first attack it had delivered. Izuku clutched his ribs. "Sensei, you okay?" he asked, in too much pain to turn. "I'm alright, how are you feeling, Midoriya?" "Tired, hungry, sore." I tried to keep him from making contact because I didn't know his quirk, so keeping close and fast took away his chances of using it. Clever move, he has some sort of disintegration quirk. He put his hand to my elbow and everything up to the muscle had been strppd off. "Sounds painful, but I think if I move now I'll pass out. That makes two of us." Aizawa's voice was followed by a small thud. "I just want," he took a deep breath, "sleep." His voice rang across the USJ. Heroes began piling in the entrance, one helping Aizawa while the other helped Izuku, who smiled and fell asleep the second his body relaxed. He grumbled as he walked to the apartment. Recovery girl had made him spend the whole day resting in the hospital bed, even making him do the classwork on the sliding table from the bed. Luckily he had enough hindsight to give the girls a key each when they moved in, so they should be at home by now. Izuku opened the door and walked inside to darkness. "Guess they aren't home yet, probably went shopping," he sighed. "I'll cook dinner for them then." Kicking off his shoes and making his way to the dining room, Izuku had turned his back on a slightly ajar door for only 2 seconds before a blndfld was haphazardly put around his eyes and he was thrown off balance to be dragged to the bedroom, where he was promptly thrown onto the bed and restrained with metallic HNDCFFS. Silence as he felt 4 pairs of hands explore his body. "Always in control, eh?" Kyuka's voice taunted him. It was normal volume, but a shift in the bed next to him indicated the girl was moving closer. "Well, not tonight," she whispered seductively in his ear. "You're going to be ours," Mina whispered in his other ear, "and we'll keep you awake." Uraraka's hands ran up the insides of his thighs. "All night long," Toru finished, sitting on his chest. His blndfld wasn't taken off, nor the HNDCFFS removed. Toru's pierced the calm air as she lowered herself to take Izuku entirely. His mouth was suddenly taken by a kiss from lips his recognized as Mina's. "And we're taking as many turns as we want tonight," Kyuka promised him. "If you're going to do it," Izuku just smiled, "at least check my sleeves." In one swift motion he pulled his hands away from the unlocked HNDCFFS and wrapped one arm around Mina, dragged her into a kiss again while his other hand suddenly surprised Kyuka by moving around her waist and exploring her body. His blndfld slipped down off his eyes and he looked to see Uraraka stood there, waiting in lingerie similar to the other 3. Maneuvering his hand very careful, he kept his arm around Mina but was able to grab a handful of Uraraka's butt, eliciting a small of arousal from her. He locked eyes with her, and she smiled coyly before the 4 girls were able to pin him down to the mattress. Each of them in their own passionate heat. Izuku had enough for all 4 of them. True to their word, they all took turns, and when they weren't they'd be covering Izuku in hickeys. From the chest down he quickly became a mess of light bruises and arousal. His hands were tied to the headboard with rope, this time without him noticing at first. His blndfld was all but discarded now as the bed threatened to break under them. The next morning he woke up, his arms freed and 4 girls asleep around him. Mina wrapping herself around his left arm, Toru around his right, Uraraka literally curled up on his chest, and a weight on his hips told him Kyuka was asleep between his legs. He tried in vain to move any part of his body. Each girl just frowned in their sleep and nuzzled closer to him. He sighed and tried moved his legs. To his surprise, everything below his knees had movement. He crossed his legs around Kyuka and smiled as he felt her arms suddenly rest on his lower legs. A thought flashed in his mind and he was suddenly grateful that he had the foresight to put underwear on. Slowly each girl began to wake up. Until he was once again surrounded by 4 very attractive, almost naked girls. Who wants breakfast? Izuku grinned, the 4 girls' eyes became starry-eyed. They put on more comfortable clothes and began to leave the room. Izuku was the last one when the TV flared to life. Morning Dad. Good morning Izuku, I take it Tamura already told you. Yeah, nice way of getting around my blackmail. In fact it was you blackmail that made me realize, keeping it from your mother would only do more damage. I was lucky enough as is, I'm on cleaning detail for 2 months and the couch for a week. His father clearly shifted his back, and I can't turn it into a bed. Izuku chuckled, that aside I was hoping you'd have information. No, I'm working on it, there's a few more people I need in the family before anything else goes ahead. Izuku, Dad. Izuku glared at the screen, you know I have my method. I've always had Mom's patience, either way the results I get will be the ones I want. He stood for a moment and began putting a shirt on. I wanted to discuss some details with Tamura and you too. I need a lot of time. Well, time is one thing we can have. We've got a new member to invite to the league, I'm sure you know, Stain. That works out very, very well for me actually Dad. Izuku smiled, he'll be in Hosu as the sports festival goes on. That's correct, he told us he'll be targeting a specific hero. His father paused, Ingenium.